2011, Jason Baptiste was listed as one of the top 30 under 30 by both Forbes and Inc. magazine. He was also listed as one of the top 25 entrepreneurs under 25 by Business Week, and he's only 26. Jason is the CEO and co-founder of OnSwipe. He's also the author of the Ultralight Startup. Today I'll be speaking to him about both his company and his book. Thanks for being here today, Jason.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So you have a pretty interesting story. You went from being a student in computer information systems to being listed as one of Forbes 30 under 30. Can you tell us about your background and how it got you to where you are today?
Yeah, it always started with the desire to see things built and build from the ground up. Since I was a young age in school, I, started a couple of projects and one became a company, and I dropped out, actually moved to Silicon Valley, and then ended up going back to even finish school, which was 2010. And at the time, I was doing a lot of writing, and that writing was entrepreneurship. My learnings on success, and mostly failure and everything in between, and that had gotten some popularity online. A book deal to go with it, and all I wanted to do, along with my co-founder, was make that content a beautiful experience on the iPad. So we set out to do that, and the best thing to do as an entrepreneur is not to solve a problem other people want, but a problem that you want, and that's how OnSwipe started, and we got to where we are today.
Now, you mentioned that you left school to start your own startup. So can you tell us a little bit about the pros and cons to doing that, and would you, maybe it's not something you recommend, but what kind of advantages and disadvantages there were for that?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of allure about dropping out. There's a lot, the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, they didn't need college. And, I certainly don't think you need college for the skills per se, but I think you get a lot out of it in terms of maturity, in terms of life experience and all that. So it's certainly useful, but in terms of, dropping out to do a startup, I think there's a few things you need to have under your belt. Do you have something you're really passionate about working on? Do you have a demo? Do you have customers? Do you know, with this at a time, with this singular focus, how you're going to take it to another level, not just I'm going to drop out and figure it out, and also, how are you going to eat, right? It's as a college student, it's not particularly easy. So answering all those questions, I think, really make it a compelling reason to drop out.
Right. So OnSwipe is not the first company that you started yourself, but it's the one that you're working on now. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is and how it works?
Yeah, so we started OnSwipe about a year and a half ago. It was a side project which turned into this much larger vision, and that vision is to power the way the world experiences the web on touch devices. If there is a touch screen device out there, we want to be powering the way people experience content and put ads to go with it. And it's a really simple process. If it's you're a publisher of any size. You could be a personal blogger like myself, or you could be, a large publisher like FlavorWire or Ziff Davis with the New York Times. We'll make that a beautiful experience on, the iPhone and the iPad, and with that, we're going to put beautiful ads to go with it. We saw this shift of going from point-and-click devices, right, where the world is measured by on-click, to being measured by on-swipe, and there's a chance to change everything, to do what the iPad did to the PC, to do to the entire web, and by making it a beautiful magazine-like experience, we have the chance to also to put beautiful ads to go with it. So you think about somebody needs to solve mobile and touch monetization. We're the company to do that, and we do that by powering the experience.
And you're not necessarily trying to replace apps, right?
No, the blunt phrase is we think apps are bullshit. They're, nice ancillary pieces of audience development, but if you're a publisher or somebody creating things on the web, you're not going to get rid of your website. That's where all your traffic comes from. That's where traffic through search, traffic through share, traffic through email comes from. You should focus on that. You should focus on making that a more engaging experience.
So you're looking to deliver the content of a website in a more visually dynamic way, really?
Yes. And it performs unlike anything ever before. It's a 300 to 800% lift in page views for a publisher, as well as increasing time on site another 50%.
So you recently wrote a book called Ultralight Startup. Can you talk a little bit about why you decided to write it and what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, it's the book I wish I had 5 years ago. It's really, the blueprint for everything you should be doing within the first year. And it's very case study driven. It's not, here's the exact methodology. You need to do this. It's here's what this company did. Here's what that company did. Here's what I did. And take the bits and pieces that work for you and formulate your own method.
Some of the companies you mentioned in the book are Foursquare or Dropbox. Can you talk about what they did and what their model was that you wanted to emulate and something that other companies might want to as well?
Yeah, I think, somebody asked me the other day, what's the big piece of advice you'd give to an entrepreneur? And I think it would be attack a problem with a big vision or problem that you want to see solved in the world. And that's what Foursquare did. I mean, Dennis has been working on that for a decade now, right? You have Dodgeball, which was acquired, then Foursquare. This is a problem that he goes to sleep every night thinking about and has done so for a decade, right? So that's the one lesson there. And then you look at somebody, let's say like Mint, which was acquired for $140 million. What they did was they did content marketing. They educated their audience. That's how they built authority. And I think content marketing is great. So that's one customer acquisition strategy. Or, Dropbox, what they did was, how did they acquire customers through referral marketing? It's literally like, here's one way to do something, right? A general overview. Then it's, here's an example from company X. And, take and try to replicate that.
Okay, so there are 11 chapters in the book, and one of them is titled From $1,000 to $1 Million. Can you talk about some of the tips that you're offering in that chapter?
Yeah, I think, that's all about fundraising, right? And the one thing we did, that still to this day proves true is we didn't use a PowerPoint deck, right? Like any money that we've raised, we didn't use a pitch deck. We used a demo. We told a compelling and logical story and had a great team around it. And that's what really sells as a demo, right? If you have a sexy, awesome product, that is going to sell, right? So it's have a demo first is number one. And number two is be in a very large market, right? A lot of startups want to go out and raise money, but they don't understand that being in a venture-backed market means, you have to be a company that can, be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Not every idea can be that. And that's, that's what they're looking for. So really think about, are you attacking a big enough market and a big enough problem? And of course, start small, right? You look at Facebook, which is now worth, a lot of money. They started off powering just Harvard University alone. Take the simplest piece, but be in a large market.
You talk about how everyone is trying to become the next Facebook. And one of Facebook's greatest strengths is that they're constantly updating their website and the app. So in your chapter, How Not to Die, do you offer any advice on how companies can stay current?
Sure. It's, there's a lot of stuff there. I think, one is just kind of keep a fair pace, right? A lot of people think this is a quick flip, I'm done. It's a fast-paced marathon. So it's sprinting like you're running short distance, but doing it over very long distances, and that can burn people out. So you've got to find a way to not always look from the 10,000-foot view down, but attack piece by piece and know, hey, I'm in this for the long haul, right? And it's also find a way to have personal time. That's very hard, and I've failed at that for the most part, but I hope other people don't. It's, find personal time for yourself.
It's easier said than done, I think, sometimes too.
Yes, much, much easier said than done.
And lastly, Jason, what are your goals personally as an entrepreneur?
Personally as an entrepreneur, I think it's about creating that once-in-a-generation company, right, in the sense that the world is seeing the largest fundamental shift in computing since computing itself was invented 30 years in a lab at Xerox PARC with, a mouse and a keyboard. So how do you take advantage of that and really become the platform and the company that is changing all of that, right? Literally reinventing the entire web from the ground up and just making this, my life's and other people's work. And I think that's really my goal, is to power the way the world experiences the web for every touchscreen device out there, be the platform that's powering it all and put the ads to go with it. So it's just really sticking to that mission, executing it, and having a lot of fun while doing it, and also being lucky enough to continue to execute on that.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today, and congratulations on all your success.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
For more information about OnSwipe or Jason's book, The Ultralight Startup, go to Kidela.com.